Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the fourth and final part of the Hyperion Cantos, which is the Rise of Endymion. So, this is a spoiler-free review, so I'm not going to be going into too many specific details regarding the plot, but I will be going over the characters, the themes, and how I felt the book wraps up, as well as the series as a whole. So, if you've read it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Maybe give me a ranking, 1 to 4, how you would rank each of the books in this series. And if you haven't read it, let me know whether you're interested in picking up this series, and I'll share my thoughts on maybe whether you should. So, as I mentioned in my previous videos, I view the 4 books as 2 duologies. So I kind of view this as book 2B, with Endymion being 2A. Here we get the conclusion to that second story. So, I'm going to give you the premise. Don't want to spoil too much of Endymion, but essentially we have our favorite characters, Rawl and Aeneas, and they are separated. So part of the book is them going on their own journeys, trying to reunite, and then coming together to essentially change the world. The scope of the story is pretty large. The stakes are pretty high. So I mentioned in my Endymion review that there was a lot of world hopping, and we do get to go to a few different locations in the Rise of Endymion as well, but we do settle down in a location for a decent portion of the book, a new world called Tian Shan, which hopefully you can see behind me, as well as in a lovely book cover here with a rather ominous shrike. Looking at Aeneas there is, I don't think Rawl's in the book cover, but anyway, I saw this and I thought, is this going to be an unhappy ending? The artist for these covers is amazing. It evokes so much emotion just looking at them, wondering what's going to happen throughout the series just as you pick up the book. But anyway, we're on this new world called Tian Shan, which for me there was pros and cons of, because I really like the visual description of the world. I think Dan Simmons paints a wonderful picture on this new planet, and it does have its own unique cultural aspects and history, which we do get to learn a lot about while we spend time there. But to be honest, as someone that was 3.5 books into a 4-book series, I don't know how much patience I had for learning about a new world. I was thinking to myself, this is when we need to pick up the pace, not kind of take a breather to do some exploration. So it's one of those things where I thought it was good and I thought it was done well. It just wasn't necessarily what I wanted. But some of the things that the book does do well that I did want was explore some of the themes that were brought up earlier in the series, and I think some of them really came to fruition. You really got an explanation for them. I won't give away too much, but some of the things I like how they panned out was the void which binds. That becomes kind of a tangible aspect of the storyline, something that the characters can interact with, which is one of my favorite things that was introduced, I believe, in the Fall of Hyperion. The cruciform. The cruciform is such a brilliant idea, one of the most interesting concepts in any sci-fi series that I've read, and the fact that becomes even more important to the story, and we actually get an interesting explanation for its background and how it works, I thought was thoroughly satisfying. We do get the way in which the characters travel is very interesting. We get a return of a tree ship, which I was a big fan of, and also the ability to travel without farcasting. So I won't explain how it works, but we do get new mechanisms for traveling between worlds. So if that was something that was interesting to you, perhaps in the earlier parts of the series, and you're wondering whether to pick up the second, then that might be something that you'll definitely enjoy towards the end of the conclusion of the series. Now, there were a few things that maybe didn't land for me in The Rise of Endymion. There was a lot of retconning. Now, by that I mean, in particular, the Technocore. What we learned about the Technocore in Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion, we're told is not true. And I don't mind a narrative device being that there's a bit of a misdirect or a twist. It's not that information has to be static or always remain the same or remain true, but it didn't feel like it came organically from the story. It didn't feel like it was set up early in the series for there to be a satisfying reveal later in the series. It felt to me like Dan Simmons just wanted to take the story in a different direction, or just for certain plot devices to come together, he needed something else to be true. And that might be acceptable to me if the replacement was better, but I loved the setup of the Technocore in Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion, and the way that the different AI factions work is kind of changed. I can't really explain it, but you'll definitely see when you read it. It's not a massive flaw. It didn't kill the book for me. It was just one of my favorite aspects in the first duology. Perhaps didn't quite live up to that in the second duology, but that's okay. As you're looking at the book, it looks about the same size as the others. Nope, not the same size. They've used some very thin paper. This book is thinner than Endymion, but it's over 700 pages long. So roughly another 200 pages. Is there another 200 pages of plot? No. There's definitely not more plot in this book than Endymion, which, depending on what style of reader you are, may or may not be a problem. While Endymion was a wonderful adventure, it felt like it was action-packed, this is a lot more philosophical. I would describe this book essentially as a 700-page exploration on empathy, which I actually love as a concept. I think the themes, the message, the spiritual exploration that this book takes you and the characters on is a wonderful journey. It's something that I really connected to both on an entertainment level and an emotional level. But there was a lot of time where I thought this could have been done in less pages. For example, there's a number of mysteries which arise because essentially Ania has at least vague memories of the future, seeing as she has traveled back in time. And based on those, she knows that some things need to happen, but she can't explain them to Rawl. So there must be at least 8, 9, 10 conversations in this book that go, Rawl, you need to do this. Ania, why? Rawl, I can't tell you yet. And that's very frustrating for both me and Rawl. In and outside of the book, that's never a very satisfying explanation for something. You have to do it, but I can't tell you why. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense within the story. I don't think that totally affects the plot in a negative way, but it did slightly affect my enjoyment of the plot. Now, there is a number of reveals towards the end, which overall I thought were very well done. But there is one particular big one which I saw coming quite a long way before it happened. Therefore, when it happened, I still found it satisfying. It wasn't a poor reveal in any way. I still got some of the feels inside, but it didn't hit as hard. I think if that had been set up perhaps in a more mysterious way, an unexpected way, perhaps more options were set on the board for me to think, I know one of these things is going to happen, I just don't know which. It was pretty much just that one, or I don't know. Maybe there could have been more options and I can't think of them. I don't think it would have been very satisfying though. It pretty much had to be that one. That's about as specific as I can get without giving it away. I would describe the ending as anywhere from bitter to sweet, or maybe bittersweet, somewhere in the middle. I'm really interested to get your take on it, what you thought on the ending of the series, because yeah, we definitely end up in some different places than where we started. So I like that. We have gone on a journey, there has been progression, and the outcomes for each of the individual characters may or be not what you wanted or expected. So let me know how you reacted when we finally made it to the end of this epic journey. So, in conclusion, I feel like I've been a little bit more negative on this book than my previous reviews of the Hyperion Cantos, but that's only in part due to my incredibly high expectations. I love this series. I especially loved the Fall of Hyperion, so I thought, if the end of the first duology was so fantastic, hopefully the end of the second duology is just as fantastic. So it was kind of an insanely high bar that I was asking it to clear, and it did tick a lot of boxes. Ultimately, though, I think the reveals weren't quite as good, the action wasn't quite as good, and I think it could have been done in less pages. But I do love the message, the empathy. We did get to explore more of the world, and it was a satisfying and fitting conclusion. Not enough abetic. Not enough abetic in this book. Anyway, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So definitely still really enjoyed it. Definitely one of my all-time favorite sci-fi series. Didn't quite reach the heights of the Fall of Hyperion for me, but I know I'm kind of in the minority on that one. I've heard some people say they love it. I'm not sure how far I'm going out of it on a limb by saying it's the best. Is it number one for you? Let me know. So there you go, guys. There's my review of the Rise of Endymion, the Hyperion Cantos. Get in those comments. Let me know what you think, and if you haven't read it, whether you're going to pick it up, because I highly, highly recommend it. Definitely pick up the first two, and then based on how you're feeling, what aspects of the first two that you liked, pick up 3 and 4. So thanks a lot for coming on this journey, guys, and stay tuned for another sci-fi review coming soon.